And welcome back to the ABCs of ERP and Beyond, the podcast all around enterprise resource planning and what it can bring to a business in the modern world. And once again, we are shooting this in person, just like last season, season 2. Yeah. We shot one in downtown Chicago. This time we are live in Mirav's office here in Schaumburg, just outside of Chicago. Shooting another podcast in person. So, well, I don't really have to introduce you like normal, so I guess welcome back.
Hey, Peter, it's great to shoot another one next to you in the person instead of over a computer. So this is going to be fun. Thanks for making the journey all the way down from London to shoot this podcast.
Yeah, it's the only reason I came out. It's purely just to shoot this. No, it's great. It's great. I know last time we did it, we thought it was going to be like a once-off that we got to do it, but we're making it more of a regular thing.
We are. You're coming here more often, Chicago, and I got to make a couple extra trips out there to the UK and shoot one. We didn't shoot one last time.
Slightly busy.
You're slightly busy. You're busy getting married and things, but I love doing these in person ones. I think we could definitely hit that dialogue and talk about go a little deeper in the subject matter. So this is gonna be great.
Yeah, it does feel a bit weird because it's like I'm used to having all my notes and all the cheat sheets like behind the camera. But here it's like everything's kind of out of reach. You can't get to it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. We kind of have to think about it today.
Yeah, we have to actually use our brain. So in today's episode, we've spoken about this quite a lot, but I don't think we've ever shot an actual episode around this. I know we've discussed a lot of pain points. Yeah. And I think really this is one of the areas where a modern ERP can really help. Especially somewhere where this particular department we're going to talk about often is disconnected from an ERP.
For sure.
When we think about an ERP, the first thing we talk about really is probably the finances.
Yeah.
But none of that happens without the operations side of the business. Mm-hmm. So what have we got on today's schedule?
Yeah, so today is where we're going to talk how you can unlock unlock the efficiencies in inventory planning, production, purchasing, with a modern ERP. And, this is usually one of the reasons why a lot of companies look at an ERP system because of the connected aspect of inventory, sales, purchasing, shipping. It all kind of comes together nicely, right? There because of the nucleus of the system. Yeah, sure. For sure, finance is another big reason why a lot of companies jump onto an ERP system. But if your current planning process or the way you plan feels really disconnected, you're doing it, really on pen and paper, there's, Post-it notes everywhere, you're checking your email, hey, I sent this PO over, so I should be receiving this quantity to meet this customer demand. You're doing a lot of this stuff manually, and you're getting to a point where you are not only getting overwhelmed, but maybe you're losing money, you're over ordering. There's a ton of different inefficiencies that you're seeing in your planning process. People are upset, right? People are upset that you have zero handle on what's actually happening. You can't help the floor efficiently run. So this episode is kind of here to unlock and talk about ways a modern ERP is going to help you at the end of the day. There's a different angles to this. There is a distribution angle.
Yep.
And then there's a manufacturing angle.
Yep.
Right. And I think both kind of merge nicely together. Manufacturing has a few extra layers. Mm-hmm. You're in the manufacturing world every single day, so you see this. Mm-hmm. But I think this is the topic. I think this is going to be one where people could repeat hearing this, send it to people within your organization because that need to hear this, because hopefully it's going to open up some doors for you and create some better processes.
Yep. I think this is an interesting thing. I know you've written down here the whole idea of flying blind. And I think if we think of the ERP, a modern ERP being that single source of truth, I think if you don't consider how manufacturing can now be more involved with an ERP in terms of its day-to-day operations, I think that's where the whole idea of flying blind starts to really show itself. Mm-hmm. I think, and we'll probably touch upon this, but I think there's a certain balance you have to have from the visual boots on the ground, shop floor, day-to-day operations and how you run a factory. But then how does an ERP kind of complement that world? Because one of the things that I know is a big challenge is when you have that factory set up and it's kind of got its own layout physically in the environment. You might have cards that show how much inventory should be in one place. It's quite a visual situation to be in. Whereas an ERP typically, or historically, has always been that kind of back office, sitting behind a desk, sitting behind the screen. So maybe we should start with a general overview of how a modern ERP tackles that kind of issue with how we have a disconnected factory versus now bringing that into behind the desk in front of your screen view of the same kind of challenges you're trying to solve.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there, but it comes down to what does planning mean to your business, right? There's somebody behind the desk that feels what planning is, that's been doing it for so long. And then there's the reality, the execution of it that's happening on the floor. It kind of you both have to look in the same direction at the end of the day. And I think there's confusion between both sides a little bit. Planning, if we just take a moment and just talk about planning and scheduling, they go hand in hand at the end of the day, right? And they are not the same. And I think a lot of times, a lot of people confuse planning to also be scheduling, and then next thing you know, you're managing maybe just work center times, right? Instead of planning.
Yeah.
You brought this up actually right before our podcast, which I thought was brilliant, because this is something that we hope we could clarify here for you guys out there that are listening to this podcast. Well, planning is think of planning as you are managing more than just your routing times. You're managing more than just your lead times for your vendors. Planning, you're managing people, right? You're managing, you're orchestrating different issues in capacity, like for example, plant maintenance that the system might not know about. You're planning for vendors not being in the office potentially because they have things going on their side. You need to plan for natural disasters that are happening that that you're going to get product late at the end of the day, right? So what you should start planning for now. Versus scheduling is more the detail work around what you've decided on the planning side. And that's really the tactical piece of it, that when you could put the numbers and the data based on what you planned correctly on the scheduling side, then the operation floor has the direction on what they need to do to execute that plan.
Okay, yeah. So would you say that the planning is more of the strategic side of more of a high-level view, a longer-term horizon, and then scheduling is like the day-to-day tactics. Like how can we now, what we've planned out, which might include seasonality or changes, or even if your raw materials are linked to commodity markets,
right?
That all goes into the planning phase. And then once you've got that down, that's when you then look at the actual scheduling of more closer, almost week-on-week scheduling.
That's
rather
right.
than a strategic high-level view, right?
That's right. I mean, one of the probably the clearest examples that we've come across in our, just the last decade has been COVID. You remember what happened with COVID, right? The whole supply chain was in flux. Containers were sitting out there in the ocean for such a long time, right? So if you're a manufacturer, distributor out there, looking to plan anything, you couldn't, right? It was just so many variables at that time. But you had to come up with some sort of plan. And that plan either meant you're already planning for delayed product to come in. So you're planning for your workforce, you're planning for how much time your machines are going to be able to be efficient and be productive. That plan is also then relating to your customer service team to contact customers on where you are with their due dates and their delivery times and things like that, right? So if in that period you felt probably the most confused that you ever were, or that you had a zero handle of anything, you're most likely just doing scheduling and not planning at that point. So um, inventory requirements uh, over time has obviously big impact on margin, right? Has big impact on customer satisfaction and your growth of your company. If you don't, properly understand the difference between planning and scheduling, you could have a lot of blind spots, a lot of leaks in your production floor that need to be filled with the proper planning process. Yep. And moving down a little bit on our conversation, planning could get confusing at the same time, right? If you're coming off of an Excel model, or you're coming off of just using a whiteboard, ERP vendors are going to throw a bunch of different acronyms at you right away. They're going to throw what MPS is, you need MRP, you need DRP, you need APS, right? That in itself is like overwhelming. Like, what are all these different planning, acronyms, and how do they, what do they mean? Which one should work for me and my business at the end of the day? And that's where I feel like maybe vendors that don't do this often maybe fall short of explaining to customers how this works properly, because you could easily get overwhelmed with these solutions too, right? I'm not saying that a lot of these solutions are going to be that you're going to be able to use them out of the box. You need to kind of take, in my opinion, a crawl, walk, run model. If you're using Post-it notes, you probably can't turn on MPS right away and work through an exception messages, because it might get really overwhelming. But you ease into it, right? You start letting go of those Post-it notes and letting the system do things for you, and taking that as a source of truth instead of what's kind of gone in your head and what you put on the Post-it. So it's a process, a transition, and that's more of kind of what we want to explain in our podcast today, and what to look for, and how to find the right mix for the right planning process for your business, and how a modern ERP system is going to be able to help you with that.
Yep, I think that's really important, because it's that letting go of the precedence. It's letting go of, it's letting go of the experts with the tribal knowledge. Yeah. It's one of those areas where it's like, let's try and get some of this configured in the ERP, but let's leverage the tribal knowledge and just trust the system can handle it for you, rather than the disconnected Excel spreadsheets and Post-it notes and stuff. And it's really, really important, because we learned this on our last Acumatica migration, where we had different production lines, and it was visual at that level, but that was at line level. We still needed that Excel spreadsheet to corroborate that together, and have that kind of overall factory requirements. Especially when you've got production lines, yes, it might be different tooling on those production lines. If they're using the same base raw material, it was actually very difficult to see a factory-wide snapshot of, have we actually got the right enough raw material available? Right. And oftentimes that actually meant the car park was full of raw material. It's like, we've always got enough. It's like, well, then someone says, there's a thing called lean manufacturing. What's lean manufacturing? We got stuff. But where should we start with this? Should we start with some of the what would be the first thing if you were selling this to someone, or trying to convince someone that ERP should handle this? Yeah. Where's the biggest benefit you see using an advanced planning and scheduling tool? Yeah,
I would say is doing kind of a study on your floors, doing a study on what your trends are, doing a study on how late are you always with customers, why are you late, kind of that whole Ishikawa, root cause analysis, right? Trying to figure out, what do you want to solve? Because if you just start with the planning engine out of the box, I think that's way too much information sometimes that could set you back more than help you. So understand what you want to solve. What part of your planning supply chain do you want to start getting a handle on right away? Is number one. Once you know that, then you could say, okay, well, what information do we have available in our data that we could put in our ERP to start helping us, plan better for this particular problem that we want to solve?
What kind of data points would they be?
Yeah, so like, you're talking about maybe reorder points. You could look at reorder quantities, order multiples, right? What is your optimal quantity that your vendors, for example, want you to order it.
Mm-hmm.
If they always are telling you that we need a minimum of 100 and you'll get $100 off, right, or whatever you're ordering, or you get 50 cents off or whatever you're ordering, why not have that be the order multiple? If you know you're going to be ordering that all the time, if you know you're going to have the demand for it, order in that quantity. But then you may have somebody that doesn't have that information that's doing the ordering, and they're ordering a quantity that's less than 100, and you're not getting the optimal price. You could be increasing your margins, by ordering in a quantity that makes sense, so you could take advantage of that. You could also try to look at your if you have multiple locations.
Yep.
How much should you be planning for a specific product by location?
Mm-hmm.
Every location doesn't need to have max quantity, right? Maybe one location has a quarter of what you store over here, or whatever it looks like, right?
Yeah.
Then you can start planning at that level, so you're holding optimal quantities. It comes down to, what do you want to solve, number one, and then once you know what you want to solve, how do you capture the data and put it into a modern ERP system to start solving that problem. And it's one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
One step at a time. We've implemented this at companies, full MRP and MPS. And by the way, people don't understand what that means.
Mm-hmm.
MPS is master production scheduling. That's the high level of the finished good items. And then you have MRP, which is master materials requirement planning, which executes the component plan of the finished goods that you plan on the MPS level, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of other acronyms right now that are kind of erupting in the supply chain space, like DRP, demand requirement planning, really for distributors out there. Advanced capacity planning, you have rough cut capacity planning, all built for certain needs at the end of the day, right? You need to find out what your need is.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes than not, right, you might not need MPS, you might not need DRP, maybe you just need a MRP process,
Yep.
right? Maybe you want to solve just your purchase order issues that you're having. So understanding that's critical. Not over implementing planning out of the gate is important, because, like I said, it could be really, really overwhelming. Because what are you doing? In planning, you're managing exceptions. Okay, if things due dates are moving, quantities are moving because of changes in customer demand or quantities and things like that, that's going to have an impact on your planning. Right, it's going to tell you to reschedule, cancel, things like that, right? So how do you manage those exceptions? Start small, start doing it correctly, and then build out a proper planning plans. And so what you're doing is you're not flying blind, right? You're not firefighting all the time.
Yep.
You want to be more proactive than reactive. So usually, if you're implementing an ERP system, look at this as a two-part process, a two-part implementation. The first part is just to get up and going and solving some really immediate needs.
Yep.
And then the second part and second phase could be, you're solving now, you want to do it for the whole company. You're doing it actually for the whole kit and caboodle, right? You want to roll this out and see what other areas are gaps and blind spots for the business that the planning can solve for you.
Yeah, I think for me, it's always trying to get to that point where you're just managing the exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you haven't kind of gone through that journey, documented your processes, documented your pain points around those, if you are firefighting, as you said, everything's an exception.
Yeah.
Right. If you have got post-it notes everywhere and Excel spreadsheets everywhere, so it's almost like we know the end goal is you just have to manage things when it goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't gone through, you haven't even started this journey, everything's wrong.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, well, I don't want to be managing exceptions because that's all I do.
That's all I do right now. That's true. Yeah.
So I think if you can really distill down what's the very few things that will have the largest impact to us, which is probably a lot of it is data collection.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, reorder points, min-max levels, get that core fundamentals down, start to trust the system to handle that. And you'll actually find a lot of that noise and chaos goes away. Yeah. Because you're just not having to, go around the business trying to find, well, that person's done the same PO. I've just duplicated one. I have to delete my purchase order, and then another machine goes down because you've forgotten about that material because that post-it note wasn't picked up.
Yeah.
They are all exceptions. They're like,
They are
well,
all
they're
exceptions.
not. They're not. If you just get that core process understood and put into the system right, then genuine exceptions are actually few and far between.
They are. You're running optimally, right? And that's where you want to be. You want to be at this, in the middle ground all the time. That you're within your time fence. You know, you've understood your vendor really well. You know exactly when to order from them, so you get the products in on time. You know your production plant is laid out and the routings are accurate. That it makes sense when you're planning those orders. So it just planning done well runs in the background and just spits out the day-to-day tasks for people, right? You don't have to ask 4 or 5 people.
Yep.
Okay, I need to go call the front office, because these 2 guys are handling, this part, and I want to see if they got them on purchase order because I don't see it on my Excel spreadsheet,
Yep.
right? I want to make sure I don't over order again, and then I gotta go run to my work center and be like, hey, don't run the machine yet because they just put in the purchase order, so we're gonna get that tomorrow, right? So it helps with that communication, all within a single system, and everybody sees where things are. Now, with that said, Peter, right? In a perfect world, we have our data in the system. Everything is well. Things are working good, right? But planning is not a set it and forget it type of thing, though, right? It's probably a continuous type of analysis that you need to do with it and refine the data you add to it.
Yeah, I think should be part of every single implementation of this, is setting up the cadence of review of the data. Because master data, as much as we say master data is once it's in, it's in. That's not the case though. It needs to be maintained all the time. Mm-hmm. So I think if you can set up some kind of cadence, maybe that's quarterly, or if you're super volatile, monthly, there needs to be that sense check of, are our numbers right? Even if it's as simple as something like reorder points. Mm-hmm. As much as the system can kind of handle that as a general number, you might want to kind of sense check that. Or, at the same time, the system isn't going to know if there's a particular product line that you know that customer contract won't repeat again, and you actually want to wind down your raw materials. The ERP system's not going to know that unless you kind of review that master data and say, right, we want to start winding down some of this. Mm-hmm. It doesn't know about that telephone call you had with the vendor that's just doubled the lead time. Yeah. It doesn't know about that customer that you're going to exit. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important to, once it is up and running, that you also set up that plan, that process of review to make sure that the system's always going to be running on the right numbers you expect it to.
Yeah, and I think a lot of customers that we see, if they're using MRP and MPS and they're now coming into a more modern system, those numbers have been set one time 20 years ago and never been changed. So what happens, right? The users understand, the people executing the purchase orders, receiving an inventory, working on the work center, understand that these starting and ending numbers are bad. No one bothers changing it. So planning gets thrown out. You stop using the planning module.
Just not trusted.
Yeah, not trusted. Exactly. Right? Now, what started out as a great initiative ended up being a waste of time. Because if you don't take care of it, right? If you don't update it based on what's happening with your vendors, the economy, right? Things like this, it's going to be bad data that people are not going to be able to rely on anymore and just abandon the whole module.
Yeah. For me, it's that whole idea of future ROI, isn't it? It's like, do the little things today because it's going to have a massive impact in the future. Yeah. It's the same thing when you think about health.
Yeah.
Who thinks, actually, I should just go for a half an hour run today? No one goes, nah, tomorrow. Well, when you're later in age, you think, oh crap, my body would be in much better condition if I just took 30 minutes a day.
There's a ton of those decisions I regret right now. Yeah, there's a ton of decisions I'm regretting right now, but
but it's one of those things. It's like, you need to do this today because that's going to compound over time, and you're going to be way off. Yeah. Or people then there's a breakdown of the culture of being able to trust the system, right? As soon as people go, oh, I'm going to ignore it. I know it's screaming at me to buy this stock. I know that I don't need to because we don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
We'll tell the system you don't do it
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
Because if you start ignoring this and ignoring that, then it becomes very difficult when there's a genuine occasion when the system's screaming at you for those critical materials.
Yeah.
And someone goes, well, we don't trust it for this, that, and the other because we haven't maintained it.
You know, I look at it this way. If someone's phone number changes, right? Let's say, Peter, your phone number changed. I'm going to change your phone number on my phone. It's not like I'm going to say, I'm not going to update it. Screw it. And I'll forget what your number is. And like, I won't trust my phone anymore.
Yeah.
So I always get mind boggled. How do companies just abandon updating those item policies that are actually, they're dollars. They have dollars attached to that, right? Like there is actually meaningful information there that if we don't update real time, that is just going to be unusable at the end of the day. So, just like anything else, I use your phone, right? Mm-hmm. You have to make it a point. That's the only way planning works well is if you update what's happening around you in your company, outside your company. So you could, take advantage of any, whether it's cost, whether it's quantity, whether it's resources, whatever it is, machines, right? Whatever you could take advantage of is going to help you increase your margins, right? Yep. Why do you implement an ERP at the end of the day? Is to increase margins, get more visibility to your supply chain, see what everybody's doing. Are they being optimal? And if you stop putting in that data, that feedback into the system, then you're back to square one.
Yeah, you've got to. It's the maintaining of the ERP. That's the thing. It's like looking at well-tended garden. It's like looking after that. You do need to regularly go and prune dead heads off the flowers and stuff because over the long term it's going to benefit you year on year. Yeah. And if you don't do that, it's going to age, wilt away, and not actually be as useful. Right. And then you run into the issue of people. If you think about the people side of this, people are going to go, see, my Excel spreadsheet is like, and they'll go running back to their Excel spreadsheet. 100%. Pull that out the graveyard.
100%. And if you haven't heard our episode on Excel spreadsheets, what's that one fact? 80% of Excel spreadsheets have an error in them that goes unnoticed for years and years and years. Yep. And you just rely on that.
Yeah. There's a whole industry around the people that go in to fix Excel spreadsheets and companies. It's a great market.
It is a great market, yeah. Apparently, I mean, planning. If we're just okay. So where are we right now in our conversation? We've talked about.
I've just been mining. People are like, just tell me the solution.
Just tell me the solution. Yeah, we're getting there. We are getting there. But what did we talk about? We talked about what is planning at its core. Planning and scheduling. It's just not. Would you write down something on a Post-it note and you just place a purchase order? There's more to that, right? And understanding what the difference between planning and scheduling means, right? Where people get lost right now when they start thinking about planning, right? And there's a lot of different acronyms we talked about. How do you start solving this problem in your business is understanding what do you want to solve first, understanding your data, doing some studies of your business, right? What are the most time sucks that you currently have right now, costing you the most money, lowest turnover, highest turnover, right? Whatever that is, documenting it, right? And then turning to your ERP system and saying, well, how can my ERP system help me here, right? How do I do it in a way that first I'm solving my low-hanging fruit, my very immediate challenges, and then I'm expanding where I rely more on the system and not on outside processes at the end of the day. And that kind of gets us to our third point here is modern ERP systems. Yep. Right? How they benefit. And we talked a little bit about that, but we'll expand on inputs and outputs. Where does it get its data from? Right? It gets it real time from sales orders, project lines, on-hand inventory, real-time on-hand inventory, planning policies and things like that we put into the system, right? And our optimal order quantities, forecasts, things like this, and it has an algorithm in there that then spits out what the suggestion is, right?
Yeah, and I think that's huge. That's huge especially if it's critical materials, or if you've got that kind of large one-off order that comes in, the system knows about it. As soon as that sales order goes in, that's the first time that it knows about it. Or even if it's a quote, first of all, and it gets converted to a sales order. If we say, well, every business who's the most important? It's the customer, right? Customer first. Well, everything starts with them. So if
Yep.
that sales order goes in, it triggers off everything.
Yep.
And it's not just to, oh, there's a demand for this particular item that's a special order only. It also knows, in order to be able to have that as a finished good, you need to now buy this. You need to buy extra cardboard boxes. You need to buy this specific type of resin for this special order.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, it kicks off all of those things that you can't necessarily see. And then if we talk about the whole planning and scheduling side of things, that's when it's immediate to the operations who are looking at the capacity to go, now we need to start thinking ahead. How do we slot this in?
Yeah.
It might be a particular, special order that requires a tool change on a product line or a work center. So as soon as that sales order goes on, everything else can start firing off.
Yep.
Instead of, it's too late, suddenly we need to make something. Now we're expediting finished raw materials in. Now we're late because we didn't do the capacity. Now we had to split the jobs across work centers. Now we're late to the customer, so we've got expedited freight out.
Yeah,
you can see all of this going on.
You just literally like nailed off like 8-9 things that people go through every single day. Like literally,
I'm
probably our viewers here.
Yeah.
I'm sure people that listen to the podcast are like, we just went through all those today. Went through all those today. Yeah, and those are the type of things you minimize, right? Will a planning system solve all of those, right? It's going to try to prevent it, but at the end of the day, as long as you can minimize it, doesn't happen every single day is what you're trying to aim for.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, there's humans still running the show, right? Someone could be called off. Someone didn't come into work today. By chance, a machine broke down just out of randomly today, right? So things are going to happen that the ERP can't predict for. But at the same time, you've already maybe put in that maybe utilization of that machine, right? You put in maybe utilization of your employees, right? So now you're planning for more kind of flexibility in your process. And when your sales team is selling, they're selling off of that expectation, the flexibility of the plan, of what you've told it in terms of what the utilization efficiency of the overall flow is, and for you to make a realistic and reliable due date for your customer.
Yep.
Right. So all important stuff there. And this other part of modern ERPs is AI. Yeah. Right. And that's, I think, taken away of some of these more, I want to say, older planning principles, right? MRP, MPS, DRP. I remember when I was in college and I did supply chain management studying APEX, American Production Inventory Control Systems. That was a huge thing. And that was literally learning, parent-child relationships, the lead times, time fences. Like, I went through that whole class. And now it's like these AI tools that do planning are getting better, smarter for you, and could predict things more than just data that's in your system. Could maybe start predicting things that's outside of the influence of the ERP.
Yeah.
Right? And help you bring more of that into your ERP to keep it more kind of realistic of what things are happening. I think AI is a huge upcoming trend that I think is only going to get bigger in this planning space.
Yeah, I think there's still a part of the good data in, good data out, I think. But as long as you do have that good data in, then AI will always give you good data out. I think it's super early, but I would love to be in a position at some point in the future where we are hooked into customer conversations with an Outlook plugin. We are hooked into a Salesforce CRM, our day-to-day advanced planning and scheduling features of an ERP. Like, once we get all this together, that's where I think agentic AI is just so powerful, to be able to go and read through a customer conversation, read through all of the prospecting that's happened in Salesforce, and start to say, there's a high chance that this order's going to materialize, even if it's just suggesting you may want to do preventative maintenance, you may want to do a service on this because it looks like high volume. I know how many units per hour you can produce, therefore I know if this order does happen, of which it's highly likely because I've done analysis on sentiment analysis on the Outlook thread. So you should service this machine.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because it's almost like it's its own MCP server where it's taking all of these different things and going, I suggest you might want to look at this.
Yeah. Like it's a whole different dimension of suggestion.
Oh yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Not a suggestion. Hey, I'm going to suggest to you that you should create this order because you need to hit the vendor minimum, right? This is like I'm looking at trends. I'm looking at reviews.
That for me is just deterministic. It's just like it should be X, it's Y.
Yeah.
Suggest you go do this.
That's right.
This is we're talking about sentimentality of a conversation backwards and forwards between between the customer and customer service.
Right.
You know, and we're talking about the cold hard figures of capacity that we told the ERP.
Right.
But bringing those together and making a suggestion based on that's huge. That's the way I see it going.
Yeah.
That's the way I'd love to see it go.
I mean, think about it. I'm even looking at it kind of along the same lines as what if you tied that into your marketing strategy and then you did a social media campaign and you see check based on number of likes and reviews and comments that you get, that it starts predicting for you, hey, this product may actually get X number of sales. So start looking at the supply chain
or suggest that you raise a capex because your current capacity your current capacity, you cannot win all of this business based on the market research we've done.
Yeah.
Or the insights. This is a high probability this is going to be a great selling product.
Yeah.
But based on your current capacity, you're not going to be able to fulfill it.
Yeah. I mean, some of the stuff that's coming out, folks, is really going to be cutting edge, and we have to keep an eye on this. The AI side of planning tools that are out there, and there's already a number of them out there that do this, and a lot of companies are leveraging Copilot and stuff like that to do this analysis. But it's just going to get better. It's going to get it's going to get a lot more intelligent over the time, and I still don't feel AI is going to replace somebody from planning.
The reason why I'm giggling to myself is I get super excited of all of the hypothetical kind of things that eventually it will be able to do.
Yeah.
We know eventually it will.
Yeah.
But right now, my heart sinks when I look at Copilot and it can't do the most basic of thing.
I'll tell you, the Copilot and Business Central, we need to work on that. We need to work on that. There's I think the logo looks sharp on the top right, but other than that, doesn't do much for the user.
Yeah, we're just not there. Even in the demos you see at Microsoft, that and they're showing you some kind of Copilot somewhere. They'll be like asking it the most basic a question, like, "What was my top selling product?"
Yeah.
That's a useless piece of. But that says to me that the AI can't do anything harder like reach out to multiple areas and then do something together. Eventually, it will be there. But right now, Copilot in PowerPoint is terrible. In Word is terrible. In Power BI is terrible. Power Automate is terrible. Power Apps is terrible. They're all shit.
Yeah. I agree. I was training somebody on the Business Central one. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna put this thing away. We're not gonna do this anymore. We're gonna go back to reports.
We're
gonna go back to reports. But going down the line, talking about Acumatica though, they're doing some interesting things with their LLM, their AI Studio.
That's the biggest thing for me.
AI Assist.
It's not, you're not just using them. You just put in your API key, your token.
Yep.
That goes and speaks to OpenAI or Claude or Google Bard or whatever.
Yeah.
My only concern with that at the moment is the pricing. How can you govern someone spending 1 million tokens?
Sure.
Because they're asking a stupid question.
Exactly.
Over and over and over
again. Yeah.
How do you come in and like you get a bill from OpenAI and it's like you just spent $100,000 because someone's used like millions of tokens asking it what the weather's like.
How do you police that?
Yeah. I really like their approach though, being able to choose. It's almost open source. Yeah, it's almost open source.
Yeah.
Just plug in your API key and off you go. I would love to be able to then link into Azure OpenAI Studio, because then most businesses are in the Microsoft ecosystem somewhere.
Whether it's doing something or some application.
Teams and stuff like that. So it's great if we can reach that level where in Acumatica I can use stuff I've built in Azure. That then opens up every other door.
Yeah.
That opens up Power Automate flows. I can push things to Teams.
Yep.
I don't now need to have a Teams plugin for Acumatica or this plugin or that
Right.
plugin.
Right.
I can just pipe it all through.
Yep.
If I can get it from my AI environment, who can then say, the right person to ping would be this person.
Yep.
If we can leverage all of that and connect those dots through.
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as you're in a Microsoft ecosystem,
yeah, right.
It's going to be huge.
It's
I really
huge.
like the way Acumatica is doing it.
Yeah, I do as well. And they're coming out with that. A lot of that here in some of that's in 25R2. We talked about that in our last. We did a reveal of the 25R2 features. If you haven't seen that episode, check it out. Peter does a really deep dive on the AI. Says that was his AI Studio. That was his favorite feature out there. I wonder why. Outside of that, if we go back to planning a little bit, Acumatica has real-time advanced planning. It has dashboards, Gantt charts, capacity planning tools, things that, you could use immediately, kind of that crawl, walk, run model that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, if we were to, let's summarize this episode.
I should also say, that's different, is we know Acumatica is super strong on the UI.
Yep.
That's one of the major selling points over on any other ERP. And the UX, to that matter.
Yeah.
I think they should leverage that, and they do, especially in advanced planning and scheduling, where, for example, you've got that capacity management, you've got your work centers, and you've got that, could be a work center, but it could be a work center view, multiple stages of a production order, with that Gantt view.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's awesome that you can use things like drag and drop.
Mm-hmm.
You can move things around and immediately see the impact
Plug
of
and play.
that.
Yeah.
So if you said, I need to do this instead, it could knock out and go, right, now you won't hit this date. Right. This secondary process is going to be late, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it's the cascading effect of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's actually very difficult to do in Excel.
Yeah, it is.
The visuals in Excel is the result of some kind of tabular data in the background. So often someone needs to go fudge around
update those,
refresh the pivot table, which refreshes the gap. Some
gap.
No, that's
very manual. Exactly. Yeah. Oh my God, we're doing 3 production orders at one time. No, we can't do that. We have to go back to the drawing board.
And someone fucks up the formula.
Exactly.
Someone leaves a cell unlocked. And someone doesn't believe that they've done it right, so they save a copy just in case.
That's right.
Oh my God. Whereas an ERP, especially in Acumatica, drag and drop.
Drag and
see
drop.
the impact.
Drag and drop.
You can play around with it, and of course, because it's cloud-based in a browser, you don't actually execute any change until you hit the save button. So you can always do your
what if analysis.
What
if analysis.
If I do that,
simulations.
What's the impact?
Yeah.
If that works, great.
Save it. Exactly. Do that with purchase orders. Do that with production orders.
Yep.
Move around your routing steps within the production orders. Right. Huge.
Turn on change log tracking.
Yep.
They can see exactly
who did what when they did it.
Yep.
Absolutely, and you can visually see, like, we have a smooth floor today, right? Yeah. We have a smooth floor. Oh, we have some gaps here, overloaded here. We need more people.
Yep.
We should invest in another machine because this machine always is a bottleneck in our process.
Yep. And that's for me. That's the managing of exceptions.
Yeah.
We got an issue. We got 2 work orders at the same time.
Yep.
We did that when we went live on Acumatica. I'm thinking back to your crawl run.
Yeah.
We kind of took a risk where we said we had a lot of future orders when we were back in NAV, and we had machines stacked out for the next kind of 6 weeks worth of work orders backed up like this. And we said, we knew that our data was good in terms of reorder points, safety stock level, min maxes, lot sizes, all of that was good and in the system. And we said, what happens if we just put in our live production orders, which we had? Our min-maxes are all set on raw materials and finished goods. So it knew the stock holding, how much we want to be sitting on stock. Yeah. It obviously knew how much stock we had at the time because data migration also included current inventory. Yeah. And we said, let's just see, instead of just creating all of the production orders we have in NAV, let's see what Acumatica suggests in terms of its MRP.
Right.
And we had regenerate inventory planning, and there were about half a dozen. We had probably 50 work orders in NAV. Wow. And here it was saying you need to run these 6. Okay, let's try it. So we created those 6. Fine. We have not had any stock outs. We're sitting on less stock. And of course, it's a success story, and in hindsight, it's easy
Yeah.
to say, "Oh, it was a great move," but
Yeah.
it was a great move because we were scratching our heads afterwards, going, "What were the other 40 odd production orders we were going to run?" And of course, we were thinking at the time, we were always kind of moaning. We were having lots of meetings because of capacity issues, and then sales have something that's now more important than the thing that was important last week.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
right.
yeah, well, deprioritize that. You need to run this now. And we're having to do so much juggling of orders because we had these 40 odd orders
Right.
that we didn't actually need.
Wow.
But of course, now it's like,
That's
what the hell were
huge.
they?
Yeah, that's huge. That is
It's
huge.
crazy.
Yeah.
And now you look, and we've got
Yeah.
capacity all over the place.
Wow.
Of course, we do have bottlenecks of, dedicated presses that run a particular product.
Mhm.
When all the traffic lights are green and every single customer orders,
Yeah,
that does create
it does,
issues.
Yeah.
But we just don't have as many kind of open production orders that are either in a release status yet to be made
Yeah.
or in process. We have the same amount in process. We got
Sure.
we got 20 production lines, 10 or 15 are operational at any one time.
Yeah.
That's the same. We've always got that amount in process,
Mhm.
but there's not this huge run out of
Right.
release production orders yet to
You've
start.
kind of smoothed out
Yeah.
in a sense, right? You've smoothed out. It's taken the data that you put in and recognizing how it could spread the capacity
Mhm.
correctly, so you don't have a lot of blink,
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And it's
Essentially.
like, well, why is that production line not running?
Yeah.
It's always running.
Right. Exactly.
We haven't got any need to.
Yeah. You don't have any need to.
Okay,
Right?
great. We can do some servicing on that
Yeah,
machine.
that's
Or
right.
sales team.
Yeah.
You need
Sell more.
You've got capacity to sell. Like now it's a sales team.
Now it's a sales team problem. Exactly. Yeah. Before it always comes back to, oh, we don't have any capacity, so sales like, oh, we can't. Our hands are tied. Now we can't. We
Yep.
want to sell, but we can't.
Yep.
Now you're kind of reversing that conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge. I think that's a great example. I'm glad you brought that up, Peter, because you saw that from that example real time. That when you turned on planning and you turned on, you did your regenerative run. You immediately saw like, wow, what we were maybe doing manually
Yep.
was shit, and we
Yep.
thought we knew what we were doing, but
Yep.
the system kind of helped us become a little bit more efficient. Which
We
is
and we
awesome.
also saw on the purchasing side, the purchasing of raw materials, the purchasing of packaging, the cardboard boxes. In Acumatica, if you've not seen it, it has inventory planning exceptions.
Yep.
So not only does it have, here's the suggested things you go and buy or produce, it also says, here's your existing POs of work orders that you might want to take a look at.
Yeah.
It could be expedite. It could be defer this. You do need this, but not yet. So just defer it slightly.
Yep.
And of course, you can set the parameters of that window size, that horizon size.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you just straight up don't need this. Go and delete the PO.
Right.
Go and speak to your vendor, see if you can cancel the PO.
Exactly.
And of course, you can imagine our inventory exceptions.
Oh,
First time we looked at that, it was like 4 pages. Like delete, defer. Because we're ordering like pallet loads of cardboard boxes.
Oh, sure.
To make ourselves feel safe and comfortable.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't need it. If
You
you're
don't need
telling
it.
me genuinely your lead time from your vendor is 2 days,
Yep.
and you've got this amount of stock, and you want to hold this amount of stock, you straight up don't need that PO.
Right.
Go and delete it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, that was an eye-opener for us.
Yep. That's
Seeing
amazing.
how many kind of things that we should
Yeah.
delete.
Eye-opening, right?
Yeah.
Eye-opening, and gets you to increase your margins at the end of the day.
I want to circle this back to one point I saw at the top of that thing, which I don't think we touched upon, and it's loosely linked to what I just said, but the financial impact of this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, for us, it made it very difficult to do any kind of cash flow forecast when we were telling the system, yes, we need to order all of these cardboard boxes, yes, we need to order all of that. Of course, that has a financial impact when you delete all of those because you don't need them, in terms of how finance team and controller can now do cash flow forecasts. So I'm not a finance guy at all. I've set it up.
And then
You can say,
hand it
I'll hand it off.
You hand it off.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap it up and say, in terms of planning and scheduling in a modern day ERP, where do you see the biggest benefits when you put your finance hat on?
Yeah, I think you immediately see it with inventory turns. You see it with you're carrying less inventory. At the end of the day, inventory is one of the highest numbers on the balance sheet, right? Your cost of sales has an impact on it as well. And you see your margins go up because less money on freight at the end of the day, that's both outbound and inbound potentially. Better, forecasting of your cash outflows versus what's cash flow coming in flows. So I mean, it's a waterfall, right? You do planning well, and you start focusing on that. It's going to start impacting the financials really, really fast in a positive way.
Yep. Finance. That was actually quite short and sweet. Sometimes finance can.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, I could go into debits and credits if you want, but
no, thank you. We've just had another kind of high-level demo of Acumatica to some finance teams.
Yeah. And
it was like a 2-hour demo when we were going through something. I don't know, some finance. My God, it's so dry. So dry.
It's exciting. You're saying that doing a purchase invoice, a bill, and then like immediately seeing it available for payment is dry. Like,
yes.
No, it's great. It's great. and it does my journal entries for me, and I don't have to like, do it manually right there. Yay. So good, brilliant. I thought this is a really good episode. Planning is important. I do have a point I want to make here on this podcast. So don't miss another shipment or over order with your vendors after this podcast.
I didn't even see you've written that. So we've got notes down here. And often when he says, I just want to make one point, I know he's used ChatGPT to come up with some dad joke or something. I didn't even see you got
that.
I
put that on there. Yep.
Nice.
So you don't want to miss this podcast. Re-listen to it if you need to. And I think there's a lot of good nuggets in here.
Yep.
A lot of really good nuggets.
One could say you should schedule time to listen to this episode.
Yes, absolutely. Please make time out of the day. It will be a high ROI. It will be a high ROI.
Don't defer or delete. Expedite the listening of this episode.
And we're together. And we're here together doing this. So,
yeah, this cost a lot of money.
Yeah. So listen to this.
I'm traveling for work, so it's not cost me. But if we don't get sponsors, it's going to get harder to fund.
I know, exactly. Starbucks, we need coffee.
And talking about funding, we need to fund the deep dish pizza.
Yes, that we're about to go. But great episode here today. And I think this is one like we could do again, more AI version of it.
Yeah.
And then show some other third-party solutions. Show inside Acumatica, show inside Business Central. Show the options available and see it more practically with data, right? I think today was more high level, talking about how this could benefit you at the end of the day using planning in an ERP system, but then taking it one step further so you could see the actual data moving between fields and systems.
Yep, sounds good. If you enjoyed that episode, then make sure you like and subscribe. The ABCs of ERP and Beyond comes out with a new episode every 2 weeks. We cover everything from if you are looking at your very first move, if you're moving off of QuickBooks or just Excel spreadsheets, and you're wanting to venture into the world of ERP, where the hell do you start? Well, you start with the ABCs of ERP and Beyond, where we cover most topics. I think we're pretty varied in what we cover. And we do demos, we shoot this and upload it to all podcast platforms. And we also chuck it on our YouTube channel. So as Narav says, we do also do demos with screenshots and walkthroughs of some of the features that a modern day ERP has. And it won't make much sense if we're talking about what's on screen and you're wondering what that means in an audio only podcast. We'll go and search on YouTube for the ABCs of ERP and Beyond, and you'll find those demos. Until next time.
Absolutely.
I will see the 2D version of you.
In a week or so. Yeah.
I would love to do more of these, but I am missing Morgan.
I was gonna say we should maybe just bought a cat in here and just like
have an office cat.
Like an office cat. If not a real one, I could get like a stuffed animal cat.
Yeah, we could have done.
A jelly cat.
Oh, you know what? I went down to the water tower.
Yeah.
And they got a jelly cat store in there, and there was all of these people queued up.
Oh yeah.
Like this.
Yeah. Same thing when I was in Harrods. It was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. That was huge.
Thank you.
All right.
See you on the next episode.
Adios.